If your Royal Enfield bullet does not break down on you, then what is the point of having a Royal Enfield? I mean, come on.
People would come and, can we borrow your bike? And I was like, here's the key. If you can start it and take it, go take it wherever you feel like.
Dude, in Pune, I used to never lock my motorcycle because nobody was interested in a Royal Enfield motorcycle because इसको ये जोखिम कौन लेके जाएगा, ये चलेगा नहीं, 500 मीटर पे बंद हो जाएगा. तो everywhere, dude, I used to park my bike. I used to never lock it. I used to never lock it. And उस पे ना उस टाइम पे वो लॉक वॉक नहीं होता था.
It has to be like tack.
These days people no, what are you talking about? ताला था, नवताल लगा हुआ था. I used to put a bloody navtal. I bought a navtal which would either be on that handlebar or it would be on the sari guard at the back.
Right.
Make ruckus out of it. And putting that navtal was baseless because nobody wanted that motorcycle. Modern day motorcycles are not going to make that kind of noise. I mean, of course, you go to Karol Bagh and Karol Bagh Zindabad and you put a Indori or a
short bottle silencer.
Short bottle or a free flow and you put a switch where you go bhatak every 5 seconds. And guys, that's not exhaust. You are blowing your engine. That combustion is happening inside that head. Please don't do that. I mean, enjoy the natural sound of a motorcycle is what I'm trying to tell you.
Absolutely. I had to kick the side stand back into place, like fold it back. And as soon as I do that, I have to press the electric starter. And only then it would start. If I come and put on the ignition and try the electric start,
not good.
It won't work.
Temperamental bike.
Very
now,
temperamental.
That brings me to the second question. From where did you learn the art of kick-starting a Royal Enfield? So where are you going to get those customers from? These are customers who are new age customers. They understand the importance of reliability. They like the retro charm of the bike, but they don't want to get stranded on the road. They don't want to jump up and down a kick lever. So my friend was there and I said, okay, let me ride your bike. So he's like, okay, if you can start it, you can take it away. So I got on the bike and I just saw him on the corner just smirking. And I was very confident. I got on the bike and I tried to kickstart it. Nice. Now I had no idea what those other levers were doing, decompressor. I had no idea. I knew that, okay, you have to kick, it will come alive. And I kicked. First and foremost, the amount of force I had to put in was incredible. And then came the back kick. यार छठी का दूध याद दिलाते थे. मतलब मेरे को दिन में तारे दिख रहे थे. I leapt off the bike and by that time the bike was not on the stand. I was sitting on the bike and I leapt off. The damn thing fell on me.
There was that saying that Royal Enfield owners, the best friends are the mechanics.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Hello and welcome to Connecting Rod, the newest podcast from the India Today group, powered by Auto Today. This is our second episode and thank you for so much love you've shown for the first episode. I know it was a very interesting topic, EVs and stuff like that. If you haven't, you can check it out on India Today podcast and all the other platforms. But today we thought of making things a bit spicier. And with me today is my colleague Abhinav Jhakar. Abhinav has been with us for a long time now and he's the one who rides a lot of motorcycles. He's on the IMOT jury as well. IMOT is Indian Motorcycle of the Year. And welcome Abhinav to our podcast.
Thank you so much, sir.
Let's start up. What are we talking about?
We're talking about Royal Enfield, a brand that's been in existence since 1901. It's been in India for so many years and it didn't always have that cult status. It had very humble roots in the form of the armed forces. But before we get to all of that, let's first talk about your first experience with Royal Enfield.
Oh my God. We're going to start with that, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So this is way back in the early 2000s when I had just got my driving license. And I'm a bong and I was studying in Calcutta. And, this thing was there that scooters are the safer lot, so you can't have a motorcycle. They are unsafe things and they are bad omen. Let me put it that way. But again, I was a part of that. And as a result, I started off with a LML Vespa Select. But that bug to have a motorcycle was so strong that I kept on looking to buy a motorcycle. And that's when I first saw a picture of a Royal Enfield in the mountains. It was a bullet, of course. And that just changed everything. It's like, okay, there's a motorcycle which you can go to Ladakh in, like, oh my God, I must have this in my life. But I'm sorry, family is not ready to give me a motorcycle. So, and of course, at that time I was in college, so I had no money, and everything was coming from parents, and you can't do anything about it. So, I came across my first Royal Enfield in a garage. Uh, Belonged to a family friend.
This is in Calcutta.
Yes, this is in Calcutta. And I very slyly sold off my pristine Vespa. It was a black Vespa Select
Right.
with electric starter, which was a luxury in those days.
Big thing at that time.
And nobody knew about this in the family. I had just quietly sold off the scooter, and I picked up this black Royal Enfield. It had been parked for I don't know how many years, dust, cobwebs, all those things. But there was something about that motorcycle which I loved. That black with that, earlier you had to have that chrome on the tank and things like that. And that's the start of my misery with
Right.
Royal Enfield, because I have a habit of naming my motorcycles, and I named it Trusty.
Okay.
But
It was quite contrary.
well, there's a story to that. uh, when I joined Overdrive, I think 2005 or something, I was in Pune, and I took that bike along. And my colleagues immediately started calling it Rusty. And I'm not surprised because, just starting work out of college, no money. I could barely make the bike run, in the sense like I had no money for fuel. It would break down every now and then. But it had these weird quirks, which I don't know whether, a lot of you guys, why don't you tell me in the comments below what is your most hilarious Royal Enfield experience? But for me, my bike had a weird habit. All those, bikes were temperamental, and the problem was that every time you try to ride fast, well, fast in those days were like 50, 60. That's the most you would go. You would dare to go because the front brakes were hope. So you pull the lever in hope that there'll be something, and the rear brakes would lock up. So, like you have to. But my bike had a very weird problem. It had an electrical glitch. So every time you try to rev it hard or something, and the the headlight bulb basically would fuse. So you're left with the mercy of the tiger lights.
Right.
So on one of these, on one of these days, I was in office. It was evening, and I suddenly got a SOS call from a colleague that he had fallen off, the scooter or something like that, and he needed help. So I just ran to my bike, got it started, riding fast. And guys from Pune, there's a place called Holkar Bridge, and it's a very nice place, and it's pretty dark. And I was trying to go fast, like you want to go in. And the moment I started riding fast, it just went but. And I was left on the mercy of the little tiger lights, and I don't know how I reached that place in that pitch dark. Well, the bike made it. That's the big thing about bikes of that time. But yeah, that was a bit fun episodes.
Perilous,
let me put it
but
there.
fun. Yes.
But tell me, you are much younger than me. How did you get into this madness?
So I think my journey began when I was in college, second year, not first year, because first year you were not allowed to have a bike. Second year, you're allowed to have a bike, and I wanted to buy an Impulse, a Hero Impulse. Why? I don't know. It just looked very cool to me, and it had that sort of.
So you were never a Royal Enfield person that way?
I came from a lineage of Royal Enfield people. Not like it was not really a lineage as such, but my grandfather used to have a Crusader which he bought second hand in Vizag.
Oh my God, the Crusader, the one with the Villiers two-stroke engine.
Yes.
Well, I bought one too, and it's hilarious. That Villiers two-wheeler is like, well, a lot of people don't know about it, but Royal Enfield at one point of time had a lot of motorcycles, and they would not have just the 350 engine, so they
Right.
would have the
Yeah.
two strokes. So that Villiers motorcycle was a two-stroke.
Right.
You know, I was very privileged to own one of them. Also, I found them, in Punjab for that matter, and I drove down all the way. And
Very rare.
it's a very rare motorcycle, and I did some vintage rallies with it also. And in one of these rallies, I got a preservation class award because I had never restored it.
Fantastic.
It was just polished, and the old stickers which said Madras, not
Yeah, yeah.
Chennai. Like a beautiful thing. But yeah, that's my story. Coming back to your story,
So
let's continue with that.
So he had a Crusader that he bought second hand, and my dad's elder brother used to roam around with it. He had very long hair and whatnot, and everybody in the sort of naval base used to complain that your son rides really fast and whatnot. So that was the end of the Crusader as we know it. Then in the 80s, my dad bought a second hand Bullet. It was the chrome one, the black with the chrome that you were talking about, very similar. And then we fast forward to my second year of college, where I had said Hero Impulse, and my dad nixed that idea almost immediately. He said, no, just buy a Bullet. I was like, why do you want me to buy a Bullet? And he had a very fascinating sort of story to it. He's like, if you fall off a Bullet, it just rolls from under you. It's so heavy, it won't fall on you. So I was like, that you're already thinking about me falling off the bike before I've gotten onto it. But either way, he said, go and buy a second-hand Bullet. Go in the market, go with your friends and check it out. And I remember we came across two. One was a 1976 cast iron, repainted, purple.
My God.
It had no number plate, but it was spanking brand new. It looked so good. It had just been restored.
I am sure many of you are already salivating on the sight of that motorcycle. Yeah.
And full cast iron, brake on the, gear lever on the wrong side.
Ulte pair wali gear.
Yes, that one.
I still don't know why they called it ulte pair, but yeah.
And the moment I saw that, and my friends who were obviously not well versed with Royal Enfield, like, अबे वो gear तो उस तरफ है कैसे चलाएगा? मैं नहीं, that's not a problem. Don't worry, that's not an issue. Either way, they convinced me to go and get a 2009 Bullet Electra, which was also cast iron, but 2009 was just before the year. In 2008, Royal Enfield introduced the UCE Thunderbird.
Right.
And the Bullet and the Bullet Electra still had the cast iron, but the Bullet Electra had been updated with a 5-speed, which was put on the ABL.
And electronic ignition also.
Correct.
So no points, they were all...
no points. So
more reliable.
More reliable.
Well,
so to speak.
No reliable. I mean, if your Royal Enfield Bullet does not break down on you, then what is the point of having a Royal Enfield? I mean, come on.
And there was that image also that, so what if it breaks down? It's sort of meant to break down. It's a big motorcycle. You're supposed to take care of it. You're tinkering with it. Anyway, so I bought that 2008-9 Bullet Electra, red color. Had the gear on the right side, had a electric start and whatnot. And I think out of the 3-4 years that I owned it, I think it worked very well for about 6 months.
so it's a seasonal motorcycle.
It was extremely seasonal, but there was such a love-hate relationship that I had with that bike. It taught me so much about the internals of a motorcycle and how you're supposed to take care of it. Thankfully, mine had a disc brake in the front.
That's luxury.
That was a big luxury. They looked at the disc brake, like, why would you buy any other one? Buy the disc brake one. Now, the dude that I bought this bike from, he's like, this is the latest one. Don't worry. This is, by the way, 2011. And this was a 2008 or 9 bike. So, again, I was also not very well versed at that time. I was like, no, this is the latest one. You can't buy another, this has the latest stuff in it and whatnot. Anyway, so I got that motorcycle, and that was the beginning of my Royal Enfield journey. And it sort of went on to, I also got a friend of mine from a previous workplace had given me his Bullet. He had given me his previous Machismo.
Oh my
God. Now the
Machismo,
for a lot of people who don't know, is an AVL engine, all aluminum engine. And it was supposed to be way better. It had a 5-speed. Earlier it had a 4-speed, then it got a 5-speed. And that again was a great sort of, motorcycle that I owned.
Great only for Royal Enfield fanatics.
Yes. I mean, from that cult status of owning Royal Enfields, that was right up there, the Machismo. And then I moved on to a Bullet Electra 2016 blue color UC, which was again a monumental change.
So wait, एक minute. You sold a Electra and bought another Electra.
Yes.
Wow, you are really adventurous.
I was very into Enfields. At that point, I was like, Enfield is the motorcycle that, I'm going to sort of have for the rest of my life, at least one. It's not going to be a situation wherein if I ever own a motorcycle, it's going to be an Enfield. So it was just Enfield after Enfield. Then I had the Bullet Electra, the blue one, the UC, which I sold to my cousin. It's still there in the family. It's not gone. Then the Interceptor and the Meteor.
No, Interceptor Meteor we'll talk about much later. But before we move on, I have two questions for you.
Right.
You had a Electra with an electric starter.
Yes.
How many times did that electric starter work?
I mean, barely. If you're talking about the 2008 and 9 one, it had this very weird quirk wherein I had to kick the side stand back into place, like fold it back. And as soon as I do that, I have to press the electric starter. And only then it would start. If I come and put on the ignition and try the electric start,
Not good.
It won't work.
Temperamental bike.
Very
now,
temperamental.
that brings me to the second
Right.
question. From where did you learn the art of kickstarting a Royal Enfield?
I think it was more...
And your first kickstart. Do you remember that?
The first kickstart... I'll talk about the first time that he gave it to me for a test ride. So it was in this area in Pune called Rastapet. People will know. A lot of motorcycles, second-hand motorcycle shops there. And he's like, just take a round and come back. So I went about 100, 200 meters. And by the 300th meter, I was like, this is a little heavy. And by the 400, 500 meters, it conked off. Now there's no one there. I don't know how to get back to that place. And the bike is off now. I'm standing around. I don't know what to do. Thankfully, there was another Royal Enfield sort of small store there. And he saw me and he came out and start nahi ho rahi. I was like, nahi. He's like, get off. He showed me, then he switched it out. Amp meter needs to be in the middle. No electrics have to be on. Decompress, put it full down, bring it half, and then kick it.
Top dead center.
I mean, I didn't get it at that point, and I was like, okay, thank you so much. Bought it back. And I think that was my sort of first tryst with that decompress kick that we had. But what was yours, like the first one?
The first one was actually one of my friends' Bullet 350.
Mm-hmm.
Bullet 500.
Bullet 500?
The 500.
Okay.
The old 500.
Right.
The cast iron 500.
Right.
So I remember, see, that's where that bug bit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this whole beautiful site of Royal Enfield kickstart, which, it kickstarts your heart. Yeah. No, it doesn't kickstart your heart. It makes sure you are unable to walk.
Right.
Let me put it that way.
At least in the beginning.
And I'll tell you why. So the first time I kickstarted a Bullet 500, I was very gung-ho about it. I can do it.
That, by the way, viewers, is harder than the 350. Huh? Just by the way.
And that was a bike with a good engine, so it had a huge amount of compression.
Right.
So first and foremost, I was accustomed to scooters that time.
Right.
And my LML Vespa Select had good compression.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just go and sit on the scooter, give it a kick and it'll go.
Right.
So my friend was there and I said, okay, let me ride your bike. So he's like, okay, if you can start it, you can take it away.
Right.
So I got on the bike and I just saw him on the corner just smirking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very confident. I got on the bike and I tried to kickstart it. Right. Now I had no idea what those other levers were doing, decompressor. I had no idea. I knew that, okay, you have to kick, it'll come alive. And I kicked. First and foremost, the amount of force I had to put in was incredible. And then came the back kick.
Yeah.
यार छठी का दूध याद दिलाते मतलब मेरे को दिन में तारे दिख रहे थे. I leapt off the bike and by that time the bike was not on the stand. I was sitting on the bike and I leapt off, the damn thing fell on me.
Oh no, that's the worst.
And that thing which you were talking about, that it'll slide under you,
Was
no.
completely false.
in Calcutta, there was a common, thing about tangdi jam. मतलब बाइक गिरा तो
You're done.
your घुटना is गया, वो गिरेगा.
Yeah.
And that's where those leg guards came into play.
Those
And
massive
when I
leg guards,
fell, I didn't know because the bike was on me. I was on the left hand side. My right hand was aching because of the back kick, and the rest of me was in pain because of the whole damn bike.
Right.
And everybody came then running, and they picked up the bike and they were like, "हो गया, हो गया, अब start करके दूं." That was my first tryst with a bullet startup, and it was like, oh my god, I was so embarrassed. I mean,
This actually reminds me of a story in college also, when a lot of people would come to me and say, can we ride your... That time Enfields were not, not everybody had
there
an
was
Enfield.
no cult following and all that.
Not everybody had it, and very few people had it. And whoever had it, most of them were cast irons. The UC had just come about. And
that is your college days.
yeah, 2011.
Okay.
So it had just come, and people were, oh no, the cast iron's the best. So very few people had it. And people would come and, can we borrow your bike? And I was like, here's the key. If you can start it and take it, go take it wherever you feel like.
Dude, in Pune, I used to never lock my motorcycle because nobody was interested in a Royal Enfield motorcycle, because इसको ये जोखिम कौन लेके जाएगा, ये चलेगा नहीं, 500 मीटर पे बंद हो जाएगा. तो everywhere, dude, I used to park my bike. I used to never lock it. I used to never lock it. And उस पे ना उस टाइम पे वो lock वॉक नहीं होता था.
It has to be like tack.
These days people no, what are you talking about? ताला था, नवताल लगा हुआ था. I used to put a bloody navtal. I bought a navtal which would either be on that handlebar or it would be on the sari guard at the back.
Right.
Make ruckus out of it, and putting that navtal was baseless because nobody wanted that motorcycle. I'll talk about something where service.
Yes.
These days we see these fancy showrooms, like you go in and there's apparel and there's, all those things. In Pune, near MG Road, there used to be a service center. And that mechanic was as disgusted with me as I was with him.
Right.
Because I was a weekly visitor. That point would go. वो हर हफ्ता मेरा बाइक उधर एक बार जाता था. वो मंदिर में घंटा बजने लगता. So, what I used to do is like every Thursday or Friday, like if I have got the point set on Thursday or Friday, every next Thursday and Friday, I would have just stopped. कि भाई एक बार देख ले. I used to pay him some, at that time, $50.
Yeah.
And it was such a dark, dingy place, There was one fan going gatang, 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 and there were people in, with hammers and all that. And you were scared कि ये bike वापस आएगा कि नहीं.
Correct.
So that way. But these guys knew what to do.
Yeah.
So they would just set up the point correct and you're good for 1 week.
Right.
That was the thing.
There was that saying that Royal Enfield owners, their best friends are the mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
It was very true.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you.
He became a very good friend of mine. I used to when I used to get mithai back from home, when I used to go from Delhi to Pune, because I would study in Pune, I would get mithai for him also, because it was like of course I'm going to meet him. Like,
of course. He would have come home to get that damn thing started, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Right? At least my mechanic used to come whenever, when I was studying in Bangalore. I did not dare take that bike there because I was staying somewhere really outside near Banerghatta.
Right.
And it was a forest area with frequent animals and all that. That's something which...
But, since we're talking about, our experiences of how, our sort of fanboyish nature started with Royal Enfield, we also have to sort of acknowledge how far the brand has come.
Oh, yes.
And how there's been a sort of monumental change across the board.
I think, Abhinav, Sid Lal, as he's properly known as, he's a very different kind of person. See, we've seen what happened to Harley Davidson, right? In India, Royal Enfield was more like a Harley Davidson. The Desi Harley Davidson.
Right. Raja Gadi. ठीक है ना? तो people wanted to have it. But how long can you sustain a business basis of enthusiasts only? Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
So the company acknowledged the fact that whatever the cast iron and, the machismo and even that matter, the Thunderbird, even the Thunderbird for that matter, came in. But the bottom line factor was unreliability. It was not a thumb start bike.
Mhm.
And that is what was, challenging the supremacy of Royal Enfield. Yes, they died out
Yeah.
with the two-stroke era.
Mhm.
So this new generation, led by Sid, made all the difference. The
Absolutely.
first thing which they acknowledged is that business is more important than beer. Okay?
Right.
First, you have to make money
Hmm.
to sustain.
Right.
आप लद्दाख जाओगे या कहीं पर जाओगे वहाँ पर पार्टी करो उससे कुछ नहीं होने वाला. Like maybe 500 people will come and buy your bike every month. But you
Correct.
don't need 500. You need 50,000 people to come and buy your bike. So where are you going to get those customers from?
Right.
These are customers who are new age customers. They understand the importance of reliability. They like the retro charm of the bike, but they don't want to get stranded on the road. They don't want to jump up and down a kick lever.
Right.
Right? So that's when the classic 350 arrived.
Absolutely.
And in my books, the classic 350 was the game changer
Definitely.
for Royal Enfield.
Absolutely.
The UCE,
UC.
right? The unit construction engine.
Smaller
And-
engine, more reliable.
Right. It's not just a small engine in India. It's a 350. So at that time, it was one of the biggest engine, and they had the 500 also at that point of time,
Right.
which was the Raja Gadi.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was the original sort of
Yeah,
Raja
yeah.
Gadi.
And-
Also, don't get me wrong, when I say smaller engine, what I mean is the construction of the engine was made more compact than the cast iron. So,
With reliability in mind.
absolutely. That was the main point.
And when I bought the classic 500, it was after a long gap that I had bought a Royal Enfield.
Right.
A really long gap.
Right.
And I could feel the difference.
Absolutely.
That bike felt so much better.
Mhm.
Lighter, faster. Well, definitely faster than the older Bullet. I'm not talking about, now don't compare with
Yeah.
the other kind of motorcycles.
This is about Royal Enfield.
This is Royal Enfield, yeah. So whatever we say is behind. So when I bought the classic 500, it would start every time on the thumb,
Yeah.
right? And I have ridden so much on that motorcycle. And thanks to that new 15-year-old scrappage policy, I had to sell off my bike, or else even till the last 2 years I had the 500, and I think this is one of the finest bikes I have ever owned. It may be a voodoo
The 500 UC.
The 500 UCE with electric start. It was a teal color.
Oh.
It was a teal bike, and I just loved it.
Right.
So much so that I can say on this podcast that during the COVID lockdown, I had a decent sizable collection of motorcycles. And we'd not ridden for, I don't know, a month, 2 months.
Right.
You remember the first lockdown?
Yeah.
And when one of these days I had to step out of home in lockdown, and I had to get some emergency supplies, and I went down to my basement, I thought that Royal Enfield is not going to start. So I took all the keys. So I started each and every bike which I had. None of them started. But the 500
Except
did.
for the 500. Which
So
is
the 500
incredible.
started on a thumb.
Right.
And that for me was like, oh my God, how did this happen? This is not supposed to happen. This is voodoo. It is not supposed to happen.
This is out of the ordinary.
This is out of the ordinary.
But since we're talking about the 500, why don't we talk about its spiritual successor, which you have ridden, the Royal Enfield Classic 650 Twin. I think we should get to that in a bit, but can you give us like a little hint of what's that bike about?
It's the spiritual successor of the classic 500.
End of. And better in every way.
Let's get to that.
Yeah,
Let's get to that. Let's.
But I think
let's keep
maybe let's talk about also how when Aisha bought over Royal Enfield in 1994, it was a process that began from then. And it was a lot of experimenting. It started with perfecting or improving the cast iron engines in the beginning. Then it came to going to an Austrian brand to try and, have a different approach to the engine making process. And then came the UC, which was, again, it started with the
See,
Thunderbird and then went on to the Classic.
again, let me tell you something. It's all in the management.
Right.
The management has to understand where they are going wrong.
Right.
And if you accept that there is a problem
Right.
and you acknowledge, the result is Royal Enfield.
Correct.
Right? Having a nice retro looking motorcycle is not just enough anymore
Absolutely.
for a modern day customer. Even for me, I am a big Royal Enfield fanatic. I have a old 89 Bullet as of now. And I've owned a Himalayan, the 411.
Right.
I think the fact that your bikes need to run flawlessly is the most important thing. And changing with the time is also very important.
Correct.
Right? The biggest thing about the Royal Enfield thing is the thump. Right? And as and when we are seeing the bikes getting more and more modern, that thump is disappearing. And that thump is disappearing for a reason.
Right.
Modern day motorcycles are not going to make that kind of noise.
Right.
I mean, of course, you go to Karol Bagh and Karol Bagh Zindabad, and you put a what? Indori or a
short bottle silencer.
Short bottle or a free flow, and then you put a switch where you go bhatak every 5 seconds. And guys, you are not. That's not exhaust. You are blowing your engine. That combustion is happening inside that head. Please don't do that. I mean, enjoy the natural sound of a motorcycle is what I'm trying to tell you.
Absolutely.
That's something. So coming back to the brand, I think the other turning point of Royal Enfield was the Himalayan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They made a big blunder with the Gen 1. And I, for one, said that seems like an incomplete motorcycle. And then when the BS6 came, I bought it.
Right.
I bought a BS6 Himalayan, which I owned till very recently. And
yeah, you just sold it very recently.
just a few days back. And I think that was also a turning point of engineering.
Yeah.
Then their Brunton-Thorpe R&D center. The Brunton-Thorpe R&D center, I think, was also another game changer.
Absolutely.
And that is the reason that modern day Royal Enfields feel in a way that they do.
Absolutely.
Because when you're going out to international markets, you need, again, reliability. You need modern stuff.
True.
And that's where Brunton-Thorpe comes in. But having that has also created a different problem, which we'll get to when we start talking about the Classic.
Right. So I think after the UC, the obvious sort of next step for Royal Enfield came with the J series platform.
Yes.
And there's always been this sort of trend, even when the AVL came out and when the UC, they always do it with the Thunderbird first. So Thunderbird, and then the Meteor, followed by...
So you own a Meteor.
Yes. And
talk us through about this transition.
I'll be very honest. The main reason for buying the Meteor was for my father, because he wants a lower seat height. And I was always very fascinated with the Thunderbird, even from the beginning. I remember there used to be this ad in the Royal Enfield showroom, and it had an umbilical cord with the kid and the mother, and it used to say, "Cut the cord." It was just very simple stuff that they used to have ads which said "Trip."
They had some really
fantastic
cool
ads.
I mean, we could do like
just another podcast on ads.
Yes. Actually, we should do. Tell us in the comments. Would you like us to discuss about advertisements, automotive advertising?
Yeah.
Let's pick up like the 10 best adverts of all time. We'll do that. Yeah. Coming back to the Thunderbird and Abhinav.
So I think the main reason for buying the Meteor was the fact that the J series platform of motorcycles was such a leap forward even from the UC, which again was a big leap forward. And for my father, I wanted a motorcycle that clicks and is on the go very simply. You don't have to sort of kickstart it. J series doesn't have a kickstart in it. And he still has that sort of Royal Enfield image and feeling to it. So that was the main sort of my focus on getting the Meteor. I always thought it's a very comfortable, fairly able handler as well. and you can sort of take it out on long stints and do your city
Yeah,
bits
you're
also
coming to office a lot of times. I've seen you with
in
that bike.
the Meteor, because it just feels very easy and simple. So I think that is also Royal Enfield must be commended on making the ownership experience so much better for people who have owned older Royal Enfields. Coming down that line feels effortless now. It feels brilliant, especially for someone like my father who cannot believe that the J series platform from the 80s cast iron, it's a
Yeah,
big leap forward.
smoother, reliable, efficient, plus looks good. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it
who
looks
doesn't
very good.
who doesn't like a good Royal Enfield motorcycle?
But I think in terms of looks, the J series classic is, I mean, it always has been, even from the UCE 350 to the J series 350 and now the 650 twin. Now, you must tell us about this motorcycle. You have ridden it. We've already waited for a bit because this is, I think, the epitome of their 650 sort of platform. So,
So yeah, so classic 650, interesting. Uh, Definitely the spiritual successor of the 500.
sure.
And well, initially I had thought that they will put the 411 engine into a classic frame and call it the spiritual successor, but no, they have not.
Right.
They've gone the full length
Right.
and they've done the 650. Now, let me ask you a question. What is your first question which comes to your mind when you say classic 650?
I think the first question that I would have is it the kind of classic, let's say if I've owned a classic 350 for many, many years now, is it that worthy upgrade? Do I go for it in terms of it being that one ultimate Royal Enfield that I own, that big bike?
So basically, is it a single bike garage?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And that's a big, big statement.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why. Let's start with the look.
Mhm.
We were given the classic chrome,
Mhm.
which is the top of the line model for them. 3 lakh 50 ex showroom,
Right.
4 lakh on road, roughly, give or take some.
That's a lot.
So you need to save
Yeah.
up some. So it just looks amazing. Let's start with that design. It is, if you like the classic
Hmm.
or the bullet, you just can't not turn around when you park that bike.
Right.
For me, if you've parked a bike and not looked back, doesn't work.
Makes no
And
sense.
every time I parked that bike, I looked around.
Mm-hmm.
The chrome shines everywhere, exudes quality.
Right.
The paint, the pinstripes, everything reminds you of that retro charm.
Right.
And it's based on the Super Meteor platform
Right.
and shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
But from no angle, you will be able to make out that it has anything to do with
Right.
those two motorcycles.
Purely from a visual
Design
standpoint.
point.
Yeah.
Mechanically, it's the same.
Right.
That's 1.1 sorted design. If you like retro motorcycles, you cannot but turn around for a classic 650. You might be a naysayer, which is fine. I mean, there are people who will say, "What bullshit?" No, it's okay. If you like a good-looking motorcycle, it's a good-looking motorcycle. Whether you like to enjoy riding it or not is a different point.
Correct.
But is it a good-looking motorcycle? Yes, it is. Even after all these years,
Right.
the classic still exudes that. The 650 does that too.
Right.
And they've made certain little things, like the switch cube is chrome,
Okay.
right? The triple clamp is beautifully crafted chrome. Absolute, like it's a polisher's delight.
Mhm.
Like you have to keep that bike clean.
Mhm.
It's like the Parsi, well, Bawa, you go before ride you clean, after ride you clean.
Right.
So that is what you have to do. So as far as design is concerned, it's epic. It just looks fantastic. Next is performance. Now, being a 500 owner, I used to miss out on the top end,
Hmm.
right? Anything above 80 and बाइक का तो पता नहीं, मेरा नट बोल्ट ढीला होता था. You know, it would vibrate like crazy.
Yeah.
But 650 twin doesn't. It's absolutely makhan.
Even compared to its own 650 siblings. That's
Yes. It is. I don't know why, but I felt it to be smoother than the Super Meteor and the Shotgun.
Right. Both which we've ridden in.
Both. And I think that has a lot to do with the emission norms, the new emission norms coming in.
Right.
I think although the power, torque, everything is the same, but the bike just feels so much better.
More refined.
More refined. So we were riding in Ooty and a lot of twisties around and all that. So initially when I started riding the bike, I wanted to be all, you know, फाड़ देंगे, I'll go knee down, corner down, whatever nonsense. You know. And I started like that.
Right.
I started with peg scraping and, you know, taking on the corners, cutting here, cutting there, revving it up.
Go fast.
Yes, go fast. And the bike was doing it. No complaints. But then there was something within which, and I was riding in Ooty, you know, beautiful hills.
roads, yeah.
And the weather was like 9-10 degrees, you know, like absolute heaven. It was like the bike was telling me, what's the big hurry? Go with the flow, bro.
Yeah.
Chill. I'm there.
That sort of marks it, that go with the flow.
Go with the flow. And I slowed down. I was taking in the hills. I was taking in the, you know, scenery.
Yeah.
But then I was enjoying the corners. You know, when you see a corner and you go just
into it, yeah.
And your peg scrape, and that feeling is sublime. But I was sitting at 40, 40, 45. And I was on 4th gear. And I saw so we were riding in a convoy. And I saw the convoy going a little further off.
Right.
And I was doing 40. This is a 650 engine. I was doing 40. No clutch, nothing. I just twisted it. And the bike just took off. No clutch, nothing. And it just went. And suddenly I look at the speedo, I was sitting at 100. It's got the traits. You know, the older bullets.
Right.
40 pe Raja Gadi. This will do it. And that's what I suddenly felt. That why do you want a classic? You don't want a classic to race.
No.
You want a classic to, as I said, go with the flow.
Right.
Enjoy everything.
Right.
इतनी प्यारी, you know, like the surroundings. यार मौज करो यार, मतलब क्या होगा तुमको वो भगा के एकदम, ट्रैक है ना, ट्रैक पे जाओ भगाओ, मतलब वो बाइक्स अलग है.
Right.
अगर आप कहीं जा रहे हो तो the destination doesn't count that much as the journey.
Absolutely.
This bike will make that journey pleasurable.
Correct.
In 2 ways. So if you're doing a Ladakh trip, you'll have to come to Delhi. Delhi, Chandigarh. Delhi, Chandigarh, this is fast. You'll sit at 100, 120 easy all day long. And you'll reach Chandigarh. But once you go past Zirakpur, take a right onto the Himalayan Expressway, slow down. Relax. Enjoy. Weather's changing.
So would you say that it picks up the story from the 350, the 500, and it takes it to a new chapter? This is a new chapter for Classic.
It's a new chapter for Classic, but it's not the 350 which comes here. It's the 500.
Right.
Giving you, it has the legs of the 500.
Right.
Earlier, when Ladakh used to happen, people would prefer the 500 over the 350.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the 350 model range, they have the Goan Classic and all these bikes, right? They're going to become city bikes.
For sure, yeah.
Right? The 650 Classic is going to take the ball further. But there's only one thing which I am not too happy about.
Which is?
The weight.
That seems to be the common consensus.
It's 200 and some kgs, 234 kgs. And trust me, you will feel it when you're taking it off the main stand. Or taking it off the side stand. But it's a very well-balanced motorcycle.
Right.
So once you are sitting on it, you're fine.
Mhm.
So you just need to be careful around parking lots and things like that where moving around.
Right.
It's too heavy, 234 kgs. Like if you're on an incline, you need to pull it back.
That's a lot. Yeah.
You've had it.
Hmm.
You've had it.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I felt, oh, well, two more bits. I mean, since I've praised the bike so much, let me be honest about things and tell you the two more things which I would have preferred done better on the Classic. One is the headlamp.
Okay.
Royal Enfield has moved on to that new LED headlamp setup for all motorcycles.
They
You see,
don't really work.
I mean,
Yeah.
what happens is it disperses light,
Yeah.
right? It's not a beam.
Hmm.
So on the highways and all that, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You will need aux lamps, already available at Royal Enfield, GMA. Pick it up.
Perfect. Almost.
So
too
one
perfect.
problem sorted.
Yeah.
Well, not sorted. Please, Royal Enfield, if you're listening to us, please do it. Second is the suspension.
Mhm.
Now that's where Brandon Thorpe comes into place.
Mhm.
Uh, this is way more comfortable than the Super Meteor
Okay.
and the Shotgun.
Okay.
It does some bit of absorption.
Hmm.
But is it as comfortable as a 350? No.
No chance. Yeah.
And what makes things worse is that the earlier 350s came with those sprung seats.
Mm-hmm.
तो जब बैठता था तो उसमें भी थोड़ा absorption आता था.
Correct.
This one doesn't have it. So these are the two quirks which you have to live with. But that same stiff suspension is superb around hills.
Yeah.
You can just make it dance.
So would you sort of forego those little foibles that it has and get a classic 650 twin? Or would you wait and buy the Bullet 650 if it comes?
I don't even know I should talk about it, but yes, the Bullet 650 is coming.
Oh.
And the Bullet 650 will be better. Simply because of the seat.
Okay, the dual seat setup.
The single seat setup.
The single seat with, okay, right.
See, this is a dual setup, right?
Okay, right.
That will have a single piece.
Right.
That will give you that movement space.
And
I think the Bullet 650, whenever it comes, should be a more comfortable option.
So it's been quite a journey which started in the 1950s with the Bullet. Then we had, different iterations of the Bullet. We had the Thunderbird, we had the Himalayan, we had so many motorcycles in the middle. And it sort of comes to this culmination of the 650, the classic 650 twin. I think quite a story. Royal Enfield has had that storied, sort of chapter by chapter, getting more interesting with each chapter. Where do we see sort of Royal Enfield going next?
It's a story worth telling.
Right.
The fact that where it was from not being wanted to one of the most wanted brands.
Correct.
Is a story of transformation.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, where Royal Enfield is headed. The story of transformation. Expect a lot more from the brand. They have new platforms coming. Their model assault is almost over for the time being. But bigger engines are coming.
Right.
Lot
more on the horizon.
A lot more on the horizon. I can't talk much about it,
Yeah.
of course, on this podcast. But yeah, so it's a story. But we want to hear your stories. We've got many stories to talk about, but we want to tell and hear your stories. So put in the comments below what is your most quirky memory of a Royal Enfield, and whether you are willing to shell off 4 lakh rupees for a classic 650. Do you think that price is justified? On the road price, 4 lakh for the classic chrome, top of the line. Are you buying one, or are you planning to buy one? If you have any questions, do shoot us the questions in the comments below and we'll be happy to reply to them. I think we are running out of time.
Yes.
And we have not even
scratch the surface.
GMA, which is genuine motorcycle accessories, is a completely different story.
I mean, the state of the showrooms from the time that we owned Royal Enfields first and to now is...
And then there is Karol Bagh.
That's a whole different story. So
yeah. So I think we should keep all of this for a later date. But do tell us how you like the connecting rod, and um, and do tell us how you like connecting rod as a concept, and what do you want us to talk about. We have a full list of stuff we want to talk about, but why don't you tell us what to talk about? Keep following, send us your comments, and I will see you next time on Connecting Rod.